Happy Thursday. I just wanted to have a quick chat just about working through triggers and standing up for yourself and standing up for your own truth and what's right. So I got triggered a few days ago. It was very heavy for me, to be honest, because if you've watched me for a while, I've said before I don't like to leave my scent anywhere. I won't comment on things, especially if it's not welcome or it's disagreeing with the viewpoint of somebody. I don't like to waste the energy. I feel like it's fruitless. I've never been a keyboard warrior or anything like that. I've just spoken my truth through my videos, and I don't interfere with things. However, one of my regular triggers popped up the other day, and I'm talking about subject and not mouthpiece. So the subject cropped up again, and I saw what triggered me, and I felt like I had to stand up for myself. The minute I did it, I realised that it was going to be something that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but that I had to sort of test my own truth, because I don't interfere. I've learned a lot of lessons over my life, especially around judgment of others and prejudice and labelling, and so it's a huge trigger to me. And I have always been a person who's been triggered by unjust things, and I've always wanted and have done stood up for myself and others in any situation I've felt necessary. So I felt like that's what I had to do the other day, and what unfolded was not nice, and I dealt with it internally, because I've dealt with things like this my whole life. Things being thrown at me, accusations or spiritual swords, and that's what strengthened me. And so the biggest trigger of all for me is hypocrisy, and I unfortunately can't help myself but to be that person sometimes, to throw up the mirror and to say, have a look at yourself, here you are, you know. Blatant hypocrisy and bigotry and judgment of any others is never a good thing. And so many internal lessons and reviews, you know, inside as a follow-on from this comment. What I found interesting on an even deeper level is how it triggered the recipient of the comment and what ensued. And I've always been so interested in psychology. I'm so interested in people's motives and modus operandi and how they work, how their mind works and why. I've always been interested in that. I've always studied people to try and figure out why people are the way they are, especially if it's, you know, not, especially if it's detrimental, you know, traits or characteristics, you know, serial killers, paedophiles, bullies, you know, all this type of perceived darkness I've loved to study. And so sometimes I watch YouTube videos, not for the information of a person, especially if it's an external source, because I've really understood over the years how the information is perceived in an infinite number of ways by an infinite number of souls, you know, and we come to our perception of that information through a million different filters and experiences of our own personal life. And so sort of belief systems for me has always felt like this is where, you know, the problem is. It's like, it feels like belief systems are structured, boxed off echo chambers of false knowing. It feels to me like the knowing, the gnosis, is all internal, and it comes to you bit by bit. We get little mini revelations and things get revealed to us bit by bit. The judgment thing for me has been such a big deal. It's swapped my whole life around, and I'm going to get interrupted. No, I'm not. It's the dog trying to get in, and I've put a thing up. Yeah, so I've really learned a lot of personal lessons myself about judgment, and so, you know, to be accused of anything of the opposite is always going to get me going. Anyway, the point is, I realised over this last couple of days, it's like that what I've always tried to do for the integrity, and once the lesson's been learned in the real world, you know, in the personal world or the internal world anyway, you can extract, you know, wisdom from it. It makes me cringe saying it, but and it only at that point, you know, and at that point your behaviours change, and you would never dream of doing or thinking any of the things that you used to do or think, you know, and that's how the evolution of your self happens, the inner alchemy, the transformation, the soul's evolution. And we all have this choice. We all have this choice to do this. This is nothing to do with blood types. This is nothing to do with race. This is nothing to do with AI or souled beings or anything like that. I think we all have the potential, the spark within us to evolve spiritually. Yeah, so where I personally feel like a lot of the problems happen down here on Earth is with our human interpretation of the knowledge, the information. And yeah, I was just sort of having this vision yesterday, and it was like, whenever I've connected to higher sources of consciousness, of love, you know, the labels are what split us up, however we want to label it, God, whatever. When I've connected, it is feeling very much to me like an infinite soup of infinite potentialities, circles, spirals, shapeless, formless, freedom. And what happens down here is that we use linearity, we use lines, boxes, labels, we cube the consciousness, we pop it in a little box, an echo chamber of itself, we stick a label on it, and then we get in the boxes, you know. This is so what happens. And I was thinking about road rage as well, you know. It's like how angry and rageful people get when they're in the cars, and it's because they're in the silver metal boxes, you know. Not silver, I was looking at my car then. They're in the metal boxes. They feel safe enough to attack and blame others, you know, to throw this projection out because they're inside their box. And so that obviously happens in real life, and we're seeing that so heavily now. Cancel culture, censoring of things. If you're not in this box and you're not adhering to the rules of this box, there's always a leader of the box as well. You know, if you dare to think outside of the box, you're banished. And this is what happens. We get these thicker and thicker groups and boxes of cubed consciousness echo chambers who are casting stones unawares, you know. So, you know, I just feel like personally that's what's going wrong in the world, you know. We need to accept that we all individually have our own truth. Why is that so hard for people to acknowledge, you know? And we must only judge ourselves so we can better ourselves. We cannot judge another. And once you get to that point of realisation or revelation within your own judgment piece, no matter how far along it you are, you forgive everybody. You don't hold grudges against anybody. Everything is forgiven. Yourself and everyone is forgiven. And the landscape changes, and the suffering eases, and it's much easier to carry on climbing up Jacob's ladder, you know. So yeah, basically, I feel like this Leo season has taught me a lot about courage and strength and standing up for myself. And it's really great how it's coincided with, you know, sort of the time that we're in as well. I will not wear a mask, ever. As yet, nobody has pulled me up on it, and, you know, I hope they won't do. I stand up for myself and my rights and the rights of my family and everyone else. And fear is what controls, and fear is what divides, and fear is what separates, and fear is what boxes us off. And it's illusionary. We're scared. We're scared to stand up to the leaders of the box. We're scared to... And, you know, the thing is, conversation and evolution of consciousness cannot evolve in the spirals and the infinite sequence, you know, with such linearity and echo chambers of fixed belief systems where we feel safe enough to blame, judge and attack. So anyway, I'm going to have to go. Someone's knocking at the door. Happy Thursday.